Hello, everyone. I can't hear you because you're all supposed to be muted right now, but I'm going to assume you're all out there. My name's Dan Scott. I'm the project manager here at EII for our annual rate change project. Quick note, everybody is muted, so if you're trying to talk to me right now, I can't hear you, and that's for everyone's benefit. If you have any questions, though, please hold on to them till the end, or you can type them in. We have a chat box, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you can type in any questions you have, or you can hold them till the end. There will be a Q&A session, or at least an opportunity at the end of this presentation as well. Our intention during this webinar is to provide you with a brief synopsis of the upcoming price change. It's not very exciting this year. It's really just a price change. They didn't do any rule changes or anything that we're worried about, but we'll go over it with you anyway. We're also going to do a little tutorial on the customer billing profile, because pretty much annually people need to go in and review their billing profiles with the new rates to make sure that they're not losing money, that they're billing everything appropriately. The presenters today, besides me, it's going to be Clark Castle, who's going to go over most of the rate itself, and Josh Edens, who's going to be doing the tutorial on our billing profile editor. And that's pretty much the group here today. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Clark and let him start his presentation. Oh, just hit down.
Click again. There we go.
That was me.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey everybody, Clark here. How you doing? As Dan said, I'm going to go through a bunch of the rates. So we're going to jump into the numbers here real fast. I'm going to start with FirstClass Flats, because just about all of you pre-sort flats, right? Okay, and that's the bread and butter of the business. I'm going to follow it up with talk a little bit about priority mail and FirstClass package services, and then Dan's going to follow up with some of the more exotic mail classes like marketing flats and things like that. So starting out here, this is the rate chart. And by the way, if you can either email me if you've got my email address, or you could just do sales@eii-online.com, and we'll get it just requesting this presentation right here. So whatever we're looking at here, we can get to you. So if you look over here, retail, that's just the retail rate for the flats, and then we kind of work backwards, 5-digit, 3-digit, and so forth. Very few of you are doing a non-auto there. Some people do that, by the way, because if you hold your rejects until you get 500, the idea of this rate right here, okay, was that you could go back and take those, call 550 flats over 3 or 4 or 5 days, and run them and just pick up the 5-digit and hand sort them. Check it out, you're picking 20 cents a flat. So there's some real money there over time versus just single piecing them at retail. If you ever need to know how to do that, call support. We only have a few customers who are willing to put up with that messiness, but it's there for you. Okay, so by looking at this chart, you know, it's very easy to look at this here, where the base rate for a 1 ounce 5-digit flat is 47 cents. That means you're getting 52 cents off of retail, and this one here is the delta between 5-digit and 3-digit. It's about just under 12 cents. So check this out, the 3-digit rates now up to 40, the ADC is up to 36.8, the mix is up to 29.5. So if you look at the chart closely, you'll notice that all these lines, all these columns that have the color here, okay, the numbers are the same all the way down. It's been consistent for the last few years. You know, the 3-digit rate, the 3-digit discount rate is, you know, 40.7 cents all the way down to 13 ounces. So that makes it easy for us to work through this stuff. Now, this is kind of what's important for you as it relates to your, you know, it's kind of thinking through your pricing. Here's the good news. Well, it looks like bad news right here that the 5-digit rate actually went down 0.8 cents. So what that means is they bumped up that rate 2.8 cents. So now you've lost 1/8 cent as it relates to that 5-digit rate compared to retail. okay? But on the 3-digit, it goes down 6.5 cents. In other words, the delta between the 3-digit and the 5-digit discount is minus 6.5 cents. It looks like you lost 6.5 cents, but that's because you're actually picking up almost 6 cents at the 3-digit. Right there, that means that when you run a flat to the 3-digit rate, you're picking up a nickel, over a nickel on all that mail. You're picking up 5.8 cents on all of this mail at the ADC rate and 6.5 cents on your mix. So you take these 3 columns combined, call it 5 or 6 cents. That's how much money you're picking up. So if you're doing a lot of flats, you're doing a lot of, I saw Gary Wright's on the line here. He sends out a lot of flats every day, 10, 20,000 all over the country. That means he's primarily getting a lot of ADC and 3-digit. Gary, you're picking up a nickel on every flat, okay, if you just keep your billing the same. For those of you who have a lot of local flats, you've gone down a little bit, but you're going to be picking it up with all your, statewide stuff that's ADC or 3-digit, okay? So that's kind of the summary of the flats. And overall, it's pretty good news for all of you that are pre-sorting first-class flats. This year, Postal was good to us. I mean, look at this. They actually lowered the rate, 3-digit rate. The 3-digit discount rate is 3.7 cents lower than last year. The ADC rate is 3.8 cents lower than last year. The mixed rate is 4.5 cents lower than last year. So look at that. All 3 of these rate categories, the mixed, the ADC, and the 3-digit discount rates on pre-sorted flats went down, okay, by a few cents. So it's pretty good news. Just bumped up a little bit on the 5-digit. So I don't know why that might be, but they're probably because they're trying to sort them probably more at the
They're trying to even out the pass-through.
even at the pass. Yeah. All right. Okay. So there you have it for flats. Okay. Now let's talk about priority mail, because on priority mail, I gave you the good news, folks. First, now this is a little more sobering on the priority mail. This chart here shows you, what the actual rates are. This is just 1 to 10 pounds. I did put the flat rate envelopes and stuff like that in. By the way, if you look at the zone 1 rate for 1 pound right there, that rate right there, okay, that is also your flat rate envelope rate across the country. This flat rate envelopes is really what people ought to be using all the time. Of course, you make more money if they don't. They just send you a 14, 15-ounce flat, and you're sending them across the country. You'll make a little bit more if it's going to, zone 5 or whatever. But if people were smart, they would just send flat rate envelopes up to Dr. Johnson's office and Dean Smith and everybody else, and make sure every department had flat rate envelopes and just throw their paper inside of there. That is the best deal. Those rates right there, from zone 1 to zone 9, is flat rate envelope. Anyway, check it out. 670, 655, 635. If you know the rates right now, then you know that these numbers right here have been basically squeezed. Okay, the spreads have been squeezed. So I'm not going to go through all this detail, look at all these numbers, because this here tells you what the actual spreads are. Look at this. The spread from retail to base is now only 15 cents, folks. Today it's 70 cents. Okay? The spread between plus and base is the same, 20 cents. So now your total spread between plus and retail is 35 cents on that 14-ounce flat that you're sending down the street. Now I've got these 3 columns here in yellow because we kind of know what you're doing. If you have a champ and you're doing priority mail, we know that 80% of what goes over the champ is paper inside of an envelope. We know that 30% of it is 14 to 16 ounces, 60% of it's right here, and 10% is right here. All right? So these numbers here kind of represent your spreads. But here's 90% of it. 90, 90, really probably here and here. Okay? You might have a little zone 4. I know you have more there, but this is kind of an 80-20 rule. These are your spreads that you're dealing with. And frankly, they've gotten squeezed. So you're going to have to figure out how you want to bill people this year, because you will be making less on your priority mail. And this is what the bad news actually looks like, folks. They decreased the spread between commercial base and retail by 55 cents. It went from 70 cents down to 15 cents. Basically, what they're going to do, I wouldn't be surprised if they do this in the next rate case. Commercial base is going to get eliminated. It'll just be a retail rate and a commercial rate, okay? So by collapsing and reducing that by 55, now notice plus the base, nothing here, just a couple cents here, pretty much the same. So all of the spread that you had between the plus and the retail all happened here to here, okay? So bottom line though is you had a 90-cent spread, on that 14-ounce flat sitting down the street. That 90 cents got reduced by 55 cents. That 55 cents is coming right out of your pocket if you bill them the same way. So if you're billing them at retail or retail plus a dime or whatever that number is, if you maintain your billing structure, you're going to be reduced by 55 cents a flat, okay? So these numbers are pretty big. That's what's going on with priority mail right now. It's still a decent opportunity. It's just not the phenomenal opportunity that it was up until now, okay? All right, cubic, a lot of you use cubic. This shows you what the cubic rates are right here. And by the way, the tier 1 cubic rate mirrors almost exactly the 1 pound rate across the board at Commercial Plus. So what that means is the 1 pound rate at Commercial Plus is kind of the best rate in the house for priority mail. And you remember also that the zone 1 rate you use for the flat rate envelope, so that's really the best rate in the house. So people are better off using a flat rate envelope than going tier 1 cubic if they had access to both rates. Your bottom line here shows you how much what the deltas are between the new rates and what we got right now. So the 635 represents an increase of 60 cents. That 679 there represents an increase of 53 cents. So if you look across the board here, it's close to 50 cents unless you're sending stuff to what? Guam? The zone 9 Guam? Yeah. Okay, but a bunch of you have a bunch of tier 1 cubic stuff going to Guam. You didn't get hurt very bad. I don't think there's too much of that out there though. So there's your cubic analysis. Finally, what I want to do is talk about first-class package services, because most of you have, a few of these, okay? Actually, about 50% of what's run on the Champ, if you look at it, the split between priority mail and first-class package services, about half of it is first class, okay? So I know most of you have that are running priority mail have a significant quantity. So this is where we're at right now. The commercial rate just went up a little bit, 266, but what they really did, they really jacked up the retail rate, which makes it nice because your spread between the commercial rate and the retail rate has significantly increased. So while on the one hand, you're going to get squeezed on your priority mail, if you got a bunch of first-class packages, you're going to have the ability to increase how much you're making on those pretty significantly. And you notice in both of these here that it's the same rate, 1 to 4 ounces, 266, and over here in the retail, 350, and then they both start growing, okay? And you'll notice that the difference between these sort of jump around a little bit. They're kind of weird, It's 96, 8, then it's 70, and it pops up at 57 and back up to 76. This is when you realize who's making these pricing decisions at Postal. These spreads, again, reflecting the difference between this number and this number, don't have any linearity to them. They're just all over the map, okay? But at 13 ounces, okay, guess what? The retail category ceases to exist. That's important because your customers, if they're running these things on the meter, as soon as they get to the 13-ounce rate, they have to run it as a 1 pound priority mail piece, okay? And that's just that 670 is the retail rate just for zone 1. You send it back to zone 5, then we just looked at the numbers, the zone 5 rate for 1 pound priority is significantly higher. It's probably around high 7s. So that's 232. The difference on a 14 ounce, 232 right here is just for stuff that's zone 1. Okay? But this kind of shows you what they did. They haven't really increased the rates too much on the commercial stuff. Again, I don't know what they did with the 8 ounce rate. It's kind of weird. But the retail rates went up a lot. So that means that your spreads went up pretty significantly across the board. So this right here is the delta between your spread now and your spread Monday, okay? So if you got a lot of these first class packages, bottom line is you're going to be definitely increasing your margins on that. Actually, you're going to be increasing your margins on this more than probably you're going to lose because of what happened on the priority mail. So if you're roughly 50-50 between first class packages and priority mail, I would say you're marginally a little better off. But if you're mostly doing priority mail and just a little bit of this, unfortunately, you're getting a squeeze. So that's all I have at this point, and I'm going to turn this back over to Dan. Again, if you have any questions for me, either mail them to my email address or to sales. Also, again, we will get you this presentation if you need it.
All right. Thanks, Clark.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, and you're going to run?
Yeah, I can.
All right. Well, I'm going to talk about just a couple of rates, things that I think people might be interested in. I know that marketing's not as popular a rate as the first class is, but there were some fairly significant changes in it for those of us that actually use it. So here's the rates today, and here's what they're going to be on Monday. On a cash basis, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of change. For the stuff that's over 4 ounces, the pound price went down just a little bit, and the per piece price went up. It doesn't look like much, but when we look at it on a percentage basis, you can see that the per piece price for the heavier weight marketing mail flats has actually gone up fairly significantly, which again is squeezing the margins a little bit. Now the lightweight stuff isn't as bad. The things that are under 4 ounces, so the pieces of paper in an envelope aren't so bad, but some of that marketing mail is starting to get expensive now. And most of this again is because they're trying to even out their pass through. PRC is requiring them to bring their pass throughs down to 100%. So they're trying to comply with that. I think they're pretty close now, actually. And then BPM Flats, the more popular rate. This one's also got a little bit of interest to it for those of us running BPM Flats. This is the current rate, and this is what we're going to see on Monday. And then there's the difference between the two. So you can see that the price for BPM Flats has actually gone down this year. Pretty unusual year for rates. It's gone down across the board except for the DSCF stuff, which went up just a little bit, almost 2 cents, not a lot. All right, I thought that was interesting that BPM is actually cheaper this year than it was. And that takes us over to Josh, who's going to do a presentation for the billing profile editor.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. All right, so every year we have these this rate change, whether the prices are going up or going down, and how that affects you and your equipment is right there in the billing profile editor. Some customers aren't, familiar with it. They don't use it normally, or they got training on it a year ago or 2 years ago, and they don't really quite remember how to edit the profile.
One of the things you don't touch very often.
Yeah, you don't touch them very often. For a lot of people, for some classes of mail, it's almost a set it and forget it kind of thing. So what I wanted to talk about is how you can go into your billing profiles and at least make sure that you are keeping on top of your margins. So the first one I wanted to talk about is your marketing mail and your BPM mail. I'm just looking at the standard class profile that we have here to start with. And the thing to note about BPM and Marketing Mail is that they do not have a base rate. They don't have a single piece or a retail rate that we can bill against. So come rate case time, EII software doesn't have anything to work off of based on last year's rates. So this is the one that needs the most attention is your marketing and BPM. So let's say this is Monday. We're going to open up our billing profile, and one of the first things that we'll notice is that we have some red cells down here. And the red cells indicate that you're losing profit on that, and that you're charging less than what the post office is charging. So the way EII lays this out in your profiles and your automated and non-automated tabs, we have the automated USPS rates. That tells you if you were to open the notice 1, 2, 3, that's that rate table. Then under that is the automated profile rates. The profile rates is what you are charging your customer. So if you have any of these that are red, you're going to want to make those green. So the idea is if, for instance, we're looking at the greater than 4 ounce piece price on those, we've got the 16.9 cents on that. We don't have anything shown down here. We need to click in that cell and we need to make that say at least 16.9 so that it's green. Or if you're charging more for your customer, then you would put an amount that was more. After doing so, then you would hit Save Changes. The next class of mail I want to talk about is your FirstClass Mail. Now, FirstClass and Priority Mail are both rates that have a base rate. They have a single piece or a retail that EII can acknowledge when it comes time to adjusting your rates. So what we do is when the rate case takes effect, if you are doing 5 cents off of retail or 10 cents off of retail for a 5-digit piece, we will keep that in mind. And when the new retail table changes, so for instance, we got $1 over here for the 1 ounce pieces. If you were doing 10 cents off of retail and had 90 over here before, or whatever it was before, 89 or whatever, now it's going to say 90. It's going to adjust. It's going to move with the retail rate because you said I'm doing X amount off of retail. Priority Mail functions the same way. Now, to change these cells, you can click directly in any of these cells, or you can click on a column header if you want. And what you'll do is you'll choose what the base rate is that you're going to bill. And I'd say probably 97% of our customers are using the retail as their base rate for first class. And what that does is that says, I need this column to observe the rates for the retail rates. So it'll start with that, and then you'll decide from that point which direction you want to go. I'm doing a discount or an upcharge on it. So we would choose we wanted to do a discount. You would click on the minus, and then you would click on whether you're doing a percentage or a dollar sign based on that retail rate. If you're doing a 10 cents off, then you would just do like you see here, and then you would just put 0.10, and then you would hit apply. That'll shift all of these cells by that rate that you did for the 5-digit rate. It works the same way for your first class packages as well. On our Priority Mail, it's very similar. It's got a retail rate as a base rate. So what I'll do in Priority Mail, when I choose retail, the whole screen that I'm on here will adjust based on the retail rates. So if I want to do something specific, same way, we'll click on the column header. It'll grab all those, or if you want to do individual cells, and then you'll come in and plug in the amount that you're wanting to modify the rate with, and you'll hit set amount. And you can do that based on postage charged, or you can hit profit, which will shift the table just to show you how much profit you're making. So if you don't feel like doing the math, but you know you want to make $1 on it, you can come in here and add $1 by switching the profit. One of the other things I want to talk about when you do your priority billing is flat rate. I didn't really have a screenshot for this, but you have this option over here to come to this tab for flat rate boxes. And flat rate is a rate that is not, I mean, it's pretty static, but if you run based on a certain zone or certain weight or whatever, sometimes it's cheaper for it to go as priority mail. The deal with that is now you're sitting with a piece that's in a flat rate box or an envelope. It has to go as flat rate. So you don't want to bill your customer flat rate, because in some instances you would be losing money on that. Or I'm sorry, you wouldn't want to bill them the priority mail rate because you would have paid less if you used priority mail. So what I usually recommend for the customers is when they're on the flat rate box tab to say bill as flat rate. There's another button down here to say bill as flat rate. I figured I probably ought to bring that up since Clark was talking about the flat rate one. And then lastly, Monday, what you guys are going to see when you open up USPS reports or billing reports for the first time, you're going to be prompted with a pop-up that's going to tell you that your current rate set is the January 22nd, 2017 rate set. Do you want to advance to the current one? And you have the option to hit yes or no. The reason we do this is Monday morning, you might have an accounting person who's going to log in and they're going to run a billing report for last week. We wanted to give them the option to continue billing the way they need to before they toggle the rates forward for what they're currently supposed to be using. Now, when you go to run a mailing, you're going to want to choose yes as your option on that. But if you need to go back and forth between the two rate sets, we give you that functionality in our site profile editor. The site profile editor is the screen where you get to fill in your company information so that your paperwork gets filled out correctly. And on that screen, we have the option to choose our active rate set. And you can see down here, I've got highlighted the January 22nd, 2017. So the post office, in their infinite wisdom, and they love to make things so smooth for us, they always put the rate case somewhere in the middle of the month and they never put it right at the very end. So what we're left with is most of you guys, you need to bill your customers for the weeks leading up to the rate case and for the week remaining afterwards. So this functionality allows you to toggle the rate set so that when you run a bill, it's billing against the correct rates. And then you can do this back and forth as needed. But once you hit yes on that pop-up in USPS reports, it'll go ahead and toggle this for you. So if you came in here afterwards, you'll see the January 21st, 2018 selected for you. And that's all I've got. So as we kind of talked about here, a few of the key points to remember from these profiles is that your standard and BPM do not have a base rate. So EII will not adjust those rates for you automatically. You're going to need to open those profiles and check them next week. Some of the things to kind of note here is that some of the classes now have a different weight cutoff, like our marketing. That was something new last year. And again, to make sure all that your margins are set the way you want so that you can maintain your profitability. And a couple of your options are, if you can run your billing report Saturday and you don't ever have to worry about anything other than clicking yes on that pop-up.
Okay.
And that's all we got.
Thanks.
Okay.
So now is your opportunity to ask questions if anybody has any.
So just everybody on the line, I'm getting ready to unmute your phones if you could. If you don't plan to speak now, go ahead and mute your phone. Otherwise, we're going to get a lot of feedback. So here we go. Okay, everybody should be unmuted if you have any questions at this point. So will non-EVS BPM still work for us single piece?
EVS BPM.
You're talking about parcels, Dave?
Yeah, I think. Dave, are you talking about parcels or flats?
Either.
Okay.
Well, flats aren't EVS, so the answer to that is yes.
Yeah.
Those will go out either as mail.dat or with the existing manifest solution. For parcels, we are switching to the EVS solution for all of our parcel-based rates. So all parcels are going electronic. Does that answer your question?
But as far as functionality, how
It'll still work.
Yeah. As far as how you're functioning right now, that's going to work the same Monday.
Yes.
But as Dan stated, we are moving over to EVS for that.
Yeah, Monday, the only thing you're going to notice different is your rates. Everything else will be exactly the same.
questions.
Okay. It looks like nobody else has any other questions. So thank you for your time. Please, I know this is redundant, but the rate case is Sunday. So, hang on, one more.
So yeah, this meeting was recorded. So as soon as I figure out where we're going to post it, we'll send out a notice to everybody that the recorded meeting is available. So that's directed to Eric.
You're welcome. So Saturday afternoon, the rate case is going to be automatically installed for all those that don't already have it. Please make sure that your computers are left on and that your helm and console are closed. We recommend that you be in between jobs for this. So if you can, you probably want to finalize or close any mailings that you have open. I don't know that it's critical, but we certainly recommend it anyway, just to help avoid problems. And that's all we have. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Have a good weekend.